Record it. So today we're gonna talk about cooking under pressure. It's electric pressure cooking 101. And so my name is Andrea Nikolai, and with me I have Sarah Ellis. And so I think of her as kind of the cooking under pressure Instant Pot, electric pressure cooker, whatever you want to call it. She's kind of a guru in it. And so I really wanted to work with her to do this presentation today. And so I'm really excited that she's with me. And so let's get started. So here, I'm the one on the left. My name is Andrea Nikolai, and I work in Polk County, and I'm the Family and Consumer Sciences Agent. And then Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Sarah Ellis. I am in Citrus County, and I am the Family and Consumer Science Agent and Community Resource Development Agent in Citrus County.
Okay. And so just, I don't know if you can see this, it got kind of small, but if you want to try to find the chat box, you can look at the bottom of the screen. Sometimes you have to hover over to get the tools to show up. Sometimes they show up on the top, but mostly it's the bottom. And usually if you don't see the chat as an option right down there, you'll have this ... and it'll say more. And you can click on that and you can type anything in the chat box, and then other people can see it, or you can change it and make it just a direct question to somebody. And if that's helpful at all, and we'll try to watch those, watch the chat box and get to questions at the end, if not in the middle, if we have time. And so just after this evaluation, we have a short survey. And so if you would do the survey, that would be very helpful for us, just so that we can learn how to be better and what you need more of and what you need less of. So we really read these, so it's helpful to understand. Thank you. And so just because we're talking about electric pressure cooker, you know, just like this is for educational, you know, purposes only. So it's not like we're promoting a certain product over another one. You know, we don't get paid by the products. So I guess I just wanted to make that clear. And so right now then we'll have Sarah Ellis take it away if you want to start. And I'm just chiming in on a couple of slides, but she knows her stuff. So excited to have her. So Sarah, do you want to try to get, you got it. Okay. So I will not touch the mouse, okay?
All right. So we are going to talk about using an electric pressure cooker so that you could potentially make meals quickly. So let's see. I always hate how this, sometimes it's difficult to advance slides here. Andrea, can you just, I'm sorry, do you mind if I give you, it's not working right for me, so I'm going to just give it back to you.
If you just click and do that arrow, does that work for you? Like no, the right arrow?
It wasn't working for me at all. So,
okay.
All right. So I'm sorry, I'll just ask you. So if you can advance to the next slide, please. So, all right. So also where the chat box is, you'll also see that there's a reaction button. So you can also hit the reaction. So I'm going to say, right, I want to ask who currently has an electric pressure cooker, who is using their electric pressure cooker, and then finally who is afraid of their electric pressure cooker. So if you can see where the reactions are, if you can put a little hand, all right, I got a thumbs up from one participant that I can see, well, a couple thumbs up, all right, so a couple people have electric pressure cookers, all right. So if we can take those thumbs up, so who is using their electric pressure cooker? And a couple chats. Okay, I have one use it frequently. All right. Well, maybe Rose is a potential teacher for this too. Is anybody afraid of their electric pressure cooker? All right. So, all right. So Donna says she has a few students who are. All right. So let's flip to the next slide, please, Andrea. So I will say that I was terrified of my electric pressure cooker when I first got it. My sister-in-law convinced me to get one, and I thought she had one. This is about, oh God, 4 or 5 years ago when they first started coming out. And so why would you potentially want to use an electric pressure cooker? It can save time, it can save money, and it can save work. So food cooks 3 to 10 times faster than traditional cooking methods. Food can be prepared much more quickly. So my aha moment was when I came home one day and realized that I had not defrosted any meat, because I am famous for forgetting to defrost meat. And I have 2 boys and an adult. I have 2, I joke all the time, I say I have 3 boys that live in the house, but one of them is an adult boy. But I have a 16-year-old and actually, I'm sorry, he's 17 as of Monday, 17-year-old, a 20-year-old, and then my soon-to-be husband in the house. And I had forgotten to defrost chicken. And I said, oh shoot, what am I gonna do for dinner? Because if you're a mom of boys, you might know, might share my frustration sometimes, that we really have a hard time with meatless meals in our house. They really like their protein and they want their protein. So they really want meat, and that's most of their meals, they want meat. So I had to come up with something quick, and I had frozen bone-in chicken legs. So I took them out and I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna learn how to use my pressure cooker tonight. Threw them in there. They were literally out of the freezer right into the pressure cooker, but done in 20 minutes. During that time, I was able to do couscous, because couscous takes about 5 minutes on the stove at the most, and then I always threw in some vegetables in there. So by then, after 20 minutes, boom, I had dinner done. Super great. The other thing that I love about it is it can save you energy and money. Number one, shorter cooking times mean you use less energy. That same package of frozen chicken legs, if I had done them in the oven like I had traditionally done them, would have taken me approximately 60 minutes to do the way that I like them. And I would have had to do them in my stove. Now, I'm assuming most of us here live in Florida, and we probably all know that when we're using our stove in our kitchen, we're also heating the rest of our house. So with that Instant Pot, it doesn't let all that heat out like the oven does, so it keeps that heat in there. And that really helps keep energy consumption down, because you're not heating that whole house. And you're using less energy because you're shorting cooking times as well. Next slide, please.
Okay, so this one, I just had one thing I wanted to add, to Sarah's presentation. Just, somebody has asked me before, why would you even still have a slow cooker, or are there advantages to the slow cooker over the electric pressure cooker? Because a lot of the electric pressure cookers, as Sarah, talks about, is that they can be used as slow cookers also. So you're kind of wondering, well, is there, should I get rid of that altogether? And just, I think, after doing like a lot of research on different websites and what other people thought, and then just knowing, I guess, doing research on them themselves, like in summary, the slow cooker, it's usually less expensive, but Sarah was pointing out when we were talking about this, that there are really good sales for the electric pressure cooker. But sometimes you can get the slow cooker, usually they're cheaper. And then they may be easier to use too. There's a warm, there's a high, there's a low. You just put it in there and, there's a dial. And so just that could be the advantages of that. And they do, and they are making more, which we talked about, Sarah and I talked about, they're making more in more sizes for the electric pressure cooker. But the slow cooker, it comes in a bunch of sizes. It comes from really, really small to quite large. And, so it does this thing, it does it really well. But like Sarah was just saying, the Instant Pot or the electric pressure cooker can perform like the same actions as a slow cooker, but it can also, pressure cook rice, saute, brown, make yogurt, and steam. And so it's just like usually the pressure cooker beats it for that. And then more energy efficient, usually less power and less water and less heat. So those can all be advantages over the slow cooker. But yeah, just wanted to throw that in there. So Sarah, take it away again.
So I will say my favorite moment was when I did get rid of my 2 slow cookers that I had. And the biggest reason I got rid of my 2 slow cookers was because I can saute in my electric pressure cooker, I can add all my ingredients to my electric pressure cooker and then actually either use the pressure cooking setting or use the slow cooker setting to achieve the same results. So everything that I used to make in the slow cooker, I now make in my electric pressure cooker. And I got rid of I actually donated my slow cookers to Habitat for Humanity. So, but let's talk a little bit about what pressure cooking is. So pressure cooking is a food preparation method that uses trapped steam to cook food, and it creates pressure by boiling that water, and then it sort of, I joke and say, it sort of creates like a little rainforest in the pressure cooker, so that water recirculates, but it helps retain the flavors and nutrients of food. I noticed somebody else said that they got rid of their slow cookers as well. My thing is I really didn't enjoy food out of my slow cooker. I actually, for a good period of time since I've lived in Florida, I was a single mom and I was working in Gainesville, and I would try to do meals in the crock pot, but I did not enjoy them because I felt like all my food tasted the same. I've learned, and maybe Andrea can tell me if this is true or not, but I've learned since then that maybe that food was cooking at too high of a temperature, even if I was having it on low. And so that was why all my food tasted the same. So my potatoes and my vegetable and my meat, everything tasted the same. And I love food. I love food a lot. And so I like my food to actually taste like what it's supposed to taste like. I don't want it to all taste the same. I want my potatoes to taste like potato. So I've really embraced, as much as I was terrified of that electric pressure cooker when I first got it. And mostly that's because as a kid, when you heard tick, 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 tick in the kitchen, you did not go in that kitchen because you were terrified that the pressure cooker was gonna explode, the stovetop one. So, but with the pressure cooking, again, it also saves energy compared to other cooking methods. So this is one of the reasons why we might even look at pressure cooking. One of my favorite things about it, though, is that it retains not only the flavor, but the nutrients of the food. So you're getting that nutrient-dense food there. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about the electric pressure cooker parts. So the first part that I like to talk about with this is the brains of the device, or the base. So the brains or the base holds the inner pot and has all the controls there. And so a lot of people will maybe look at the electric pressure cookers and think that there's too many buttons and it's a little overwhelming. So really today, I'm really only going to focus on a couple of the buttons as we go through the presentation. Because frankly, I don't really use a whole heck of a lot of those buttons that are on the front. And I have my owner's manuals. I actually have 2 different electric pressure cookers in my household. I have a total of 3 pressure cookers in my house. And I find that I do keep all my owner's manuals easily attainable so that I can look and research things if I need to, but pretty much on all of them, I only use specific settings, and we're going to talk about those settings. Next slide, please. So the inner pot of the electric pressure cooker is stainless steel, and it sits inside the base. It's easily removed for cleaning. It's also easily removed for storage in the refrigerator. So with mine, I frequently will I'll cook things, I'll allow it to cool, and then I actually have like a Tupperware lid. And yes, this is something I had to purchase, so it wasn't something that came with it. But for me, it's really nice that I can put a lid on it and then put it in the refrigerator, where with the slow cooker, I wasn't able to do that. I'd actually end up having to dirty 3 different dishes, and I hate dishes. So that was my chore when I was in trouble when I was a kid, was doing dishes. So I try to avoid doing dishes as much as possible. So the stainless steel base comes right out. It's super easy to clean. It's dishwasher safe, but you need it for cooking. I was teaching one of my children to use the electric pressure cooker, and I was like, all right, well, first we want to add some oil. And he started adding oil to the bottom of to the base, and there was no inner pot there. I said, wait, we got to look for the inner pot first. So you want to make sure that the inner pot is in there before you add anything to the base. Don't learn by my mistakes. Luckily, it was just a little bit of oil. It didn't hurt it. But if you have an error message, the first thing the company is going to ask if you try to get the parts replaced via the warranty is they're going to ask for a picture of that base, and they're going to want to see that it's nice and clean. And if you've dumped food in there and destroyed it, it's not going to look as clean as it does in the picture here. All right, next slide, please. Then we have the condensation cup that's on the back of the electric pressure cooker. If you lost yours when you got it, then you may want to try to find another one, because these do help collect moisture. and condensation that might leak out during cooking process or at the end of the cooking process. Typically that happens during the cooking of stews or stocks. It does happen when I make my spaghetti sauce in there, but not a ton. But you want to pay attention to that cup and make sure that it's on there and collecting that steam or that condensation, because you probably don't want it all over your counter. Next slide, please. Then we have the lid. So the lid seals the pot. It has the steam release handle. It has the, so you have the sealing. So you see the little blue arrow, sealing or venting. So sealing, it builds and maintains pressure. Venting is when it's releasing pressure. And then the float valve, the little silver valve there with the orange arrow at it. So if it's up, and depending on the model you have, up may be a relative term because different models have a different height of them. So it will either be up above the black or it will be at the black, but you'll know if you look at it when the lid is off the pot, you can tell which one is down, and then when it's up and above that, then you know that it's reached pressure. And I noticed somebody put in the chat that the stovetops have a lot of preventive measures so that they don't, so they automatically release. So these do too. So if we go to the next slide, actually the brains won't allow it to go anywhere. So on the back of this, on the bottom of the lid, we have the ring, and then we also have the little basket, and so the little basket helps prevent anything from getting into the valves so that nothing gets clogged, and it will allow release of steam as needed. And then there's a silicone ring for the float itself that will keep anything from getting in there, but that's how they release the pressure so that they don't explode. But when I was a kid, that was definitely something that we're nervous about. But the silicone ring is essential for cooking. The only time my pot did not go up to pressure, I was making, so I have two pressure cookers that are the same brand. I try not to mention brands here because we don't endorse or promote a brand, but Instant Pot is another name that a lot of people use for the electric pressure cookers. I'm not using that as a brand. I'm just saying that is another name, but I have two at home, and I use one. I have two because I like to cook a lot, and when I'm traveling, it's easy for me to make multiple meals before I leave, so the boys have lots of food, but also because sometimes I want to make rice and I want to make my meal, and I don't necessarily want to make them at separate times. I want to make them at the same time, and I don't necessarily want, and I've tried pot in the pot a little bit. I'm still learning pot in the pot methods. If anybody has really good experience with pot in the pot, I'd love to talk to you after this. But for the most part, I try really hard to do, if I'm doing one pot meals, I'm doing everything, but my rice sometimes I don't want in the pot that I'm cooking. So I had one pot with rice in it and one pot with my food. And the pot with rice did not go to pressure. And I'm like, why is it not going to pressure? And then I realized that steam was escaping out of the side because I wasn't really paying too much attention to it. And I took off the lid, and silly me forgot to put the silicone ring in. So you want to make sure you have the silicone ring in and that it's sitting correctly. They come out really easy. They pop right back in very easily, but it's located on that little inner ring right there for you to see. And you want to replace them as needed, and you'll be able to tell when they need to be replaced because they'll start being hard and they'll start cracking. So we just pay attention to them. And depending on what kind of foods you want to cook, you may want to have some extra ones around because they do retain flavors and smells of ingredients. So if you, sometimes, I cook a lot with garlic. So I might not want my cheesecakes to taste like garlic. So you might want to keep an extra one around. All right, next slide, please. Oh, there's the float valve and shield. There we go. So these protect and prevent food from being trapped in the valve. And the float valve pushes up and seals the cooker when the pressure is reached. And of course, if it gets too high, it will let the pressure out. But there's a lot of safety features on these to prevent them from exploding like they used to in the past. So sounds like they've even come a far way with the stovetop pressure cookers. I think the ones that I see are the older Presto ones. So, all right, next slide, please.
My mom has a story, Sarah, about it blowing up and hitting the ceiling. So yeah. Glad they have the safety.
There was a reason my grandmother kept me out of that kitchen when I was young. So yeah. So like I mentioned, there are a lot of different settings on the pressure cooker. They have multiple program buttons, and each program button refers to different cooking methods, and they have specific preset cooking times. So like on a lot of them, they'll have a rice setting. So I actually can see it in the upper right-hand corner of the picture here. I do a lot of rice, but I typically don't use white rice. I typically use brown rice. I try to sneak in whole grain as much as possible with my kids. So the brown rice is a whole grain as opposed to the white rice, which is refined. So the preset on here is only for white rice. So I typically do not use the preset for the rice at all. I'll do, you can see the finger, this is actually my friend from Idaho State, Becky Hutchins, pointing to the manual button. It's either manual or pressure. Those are the terms that would be used the most if you're going to pick your own time and your own settings, because you can adjust them. You can adjust the time, you can adjust different parts of your settings with the manual or the pressure setting. All right, next slide. So we have a pressure setting that is either high, low, or normal. Now, a lot of recipes, most recipes that I've seen need the high setting. It really would depend on what you're cooking. Then we have the keep warm setting, which automatically turns on when cooking is complete. We have the manual or pressure cook button, like I mentioned, and then we have the plus and minus buttons, and those will adjust cooking times. And a lot of, so with these, like with the pressure, you would press it multiple times to get to where you'd press the pressure level a couple times to get to where you want it. You can, for some, you can turn off the keep warm setting. It really depends on which brand you have, but what I do a lot of times is I don't worry about the keep warm setting. I just will, if I don't want it to go to keep warm, I'll just turn it off and hit cancel. All right, next slide, please. So the pressure or manual is going to be the most, from what I have experienced with mine, is my most frequently used setting. That you can, again, adjust your pressure, your temperature, and your cooking time with that setting. And then the other setting I use a lot is the saute setting, and that's no pressure used, but you're sauteing foods in the electric pressure cooker as opposed to in a skillet on your stove. That is one of my favorite things about the electric pressure cooker, because I do a lot of chili and homemade spaghetti sauce. My kids will not eat spaghetti sauce unless it's mom's, and I need to brown my meat ahead of time. So I will use the saute feature, make one dirty dish as opposed to 3 different dirty dishes. So I'll saute that food right there in the pressure cooker and get moving on with adding ingredients and whatnot. So you might typically, from most of the recipes that I have tried and experimented with, those are the 2 settings that I've used the most. Next slide, please. So what can you cook in the electric pressure cooker? So I joke and say 1-pot meals and more. So I've done meats, you name the meat, I've probably done it. Poultry, vegetables and fruits, starchy foods, desserts, cheesecakes are my favorite in this thing. I've done cheesecakes, I've done flan, I've done brownies. I haven't done any cakes yet, but soups and stews as well. I love it. Yeah, Barbara at I try not to make those cheesecakes because I am trying to watch that waistline a little bit. So. All right, so there's lots that you can cook, but next page.
And so then just speaking of cheese, so that would be in the dairy group, right? So, but just, I wanted to say too, you know, Sarah's talking about all this, but just, you know, we couldn't go without the opportunity just to say, you know, our goal overall is to try to make half of what you're eating fruits and vegetables. You know, especially vegetables, they're great and they're really low in calories and have a lot of vitamins and nutrients to keep your immune system up and keep you well. And so just, you know, whatever you're making in that slow cooker, if you're making cheesecake, you know, make sure to balance out that meal, you know, on the other side of the plate. So if you're making chili, you know, it has tomatoes in there, but make sure, you know, like, is the chili made up of half, like of a vegetable? And if it's not, you know, try to incorporate something else in the meal also. And then they can be fresh, frozen, and canned. So you don't have to go through not a lot of more work, you know, just to cook one other meal. You can just throw some carrot sticks with that, with some dip or something like that, but just really trying to remember to balance it out. So thanks.
Now I saw that Gail had a question about, can you explain what the cooker does technically when you choose a specific food? Like, what does the cooker do differently when you choose eggs versus porridge versus automatic? So automatic, I haven't used that setting at all. I've just used the manual, the pressure. So what I would say is, if you choose like an egg setting or a porridge setting, It's gonna cook, it's gonna have a preset time and level of pressure that it sets it for. So honestly, when I do eggs, I don't use the egg setting. Because I like my eggs hard boiled. Some people like their eggs soft boiled. I like mine hard, but I don't want them to look wonky. So I do like a 3-minute pressure, 7-minute release, and then take them out and let them air cool. So there's a porridge setting, or I think it's hearty grains or something along those lines, because I think the porridge setting will cook for a specific amount of time at a specific setting. So that's why I say I don't use those settings very often, because I find a lot of the foods that I cook require different times than what they are preset for. So the rice time, it's preset for white rice for a specific, 1 cup of white rice to 1 cup of water for a specific amount of time. Same with the eggs, same with the porridge. It's X amount of porridge to this amount of water, and this is how much time it needs. So just so you understand what that means. So it just says that it has a specific type of setting for those meats or those foods. I hope that answered your question, Ms. Gale.
And it would be nice if anyone did have, uses them a lot, if they put it in the chat box, just to kind of see if they find that their one button that is actually very spot on.
When I was teaching, when I was doing the classes in person, I actually had a cheat sheet that I did not include in this presentation that literally listed out exactly what the settings were. And because there is a way to like tweak them on some models of the pressure cookers as well. But I have found that it just leads to maybe a little bit more confusion, especially since a lot of the recipe books or recipes out there actually tell you to use the manual setting or the pressure setting and specify how much time you need, as opposed to using a preset time. So I don't use the presets, and I figured out how to cook the eggs. Honestly, I heard other people's bad experiences using the preset times with the eggs, and then my sister-in-law told me that she was making the eggs. I hate to say that it's a lot of trial and error sometimes, but it really truly is with this. And if you are internet savvy, you're on this. So I think that for me, what I've found is I'm looking for recipes online that have a lot of likes. Or I'm talking to friends. There's so many different groups where you can get information from too. And I think Andrea is going to send out, if she hasn't already, recipes for this presentation that you guys can try in there. It's shredded chicken for tacos, seasoned black beans, and I think there's a flan in there, and maybe even a seasoned rice recipe. Yes, there are a lot of—
Somebody requested the cheesecake also.
Yes, I'm gonna have to find that one and see if we can send that one out. So, and yes, there's a lot of—
with the survey.
Okay, and there's a lot of Facebook groups out there too for Instant Pots, or sorry, for electric pressure cookers or Instant Pots, because honestly, I look under recipes for Instant Pots. Instant Pot even has an app now for smartphones, so you can get an app and take a food and look for a recipe for it. So, all right. So let's talk about releasing pressure. So there are 2 ways to release pressure, and one is natural release and the other one is quick release. I also like to call natural release to slow release. And let's go to the next slide, please. So with natural or slow release, it allows the pressure to be released on its own. It can take anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes, depending on how much liquid is in there and how much food is in there. So the more liquid, longer time to depressurize, but the foods stay intact. So the natural or slow release is best for foamy foods or dishes with lots of liquid. I technically use the natural or slow release when I do my rices. I want them to sit there a little bit longer, and so let it release on its own. So ultimately what you're gonna do is you're gonna start with the knob here on seal when you're cooking, pressure cooking, and then once you're done, instead of moving it to vent, you're just gonna keep it on seal to allow it to go out on its own. And once that float valve drops, you know that all the pressure's out. All right, and the next slide, please. excuse me. And then we have the quick release. So this manually releases pressure. Now, I have here that it takes about 1 to 2 minutes. I will say that sometimes it can take a little bit longer than that. It depends on, again, how much water and how much food you have in there. But it's best for foods that might overcook, such as seafood or vegetables. So if you're doing green beans and you let them cook for too long, you're going to end up with a baby food type of texture when you're done if you let them cook for too long. Now, the quick release is not recommended for starchy foods like rice. I apologize. I have a dog who's dreaming in the background and he's making little yippy noises, and I think he's going deaf. So I tried to hush him and he's not listening. So I apologize. But you want to wait until all the steam is released before you take the pressure cooker lid off. And ultimately, the little float valve here, until it's all the way down, it's not going to let you open that lid anyhow. Now, when you're opening that lid after you release the pressure, you want to make sure you open it away from you, so that what I do is I sort of tilt the lid to the back and tilt the front of the lid down so that I'm not getting steamed, so that I'm making sure that I'm not getting hurt. Next slide. See, there we go. Carefully remove the lid, so tilt it away from you when opening. You can wear waterproof, heat-resistant silicone gloves if you'd like, and don't touch the metal that is on the lid. I just, you know, I'm curious. I feel like sometimes I'm still a kid, and I did try and touch the lid and burnt myself. So not badly, but you know, don't make my mistakes and just don't touch the metal and tilt it away from you. Next slide. It's not advisable to leave your house when the electric pressure cooker is cooking. So when it's on and you're cooking food, it's not advisable for you to, you know, go out and run to the store and leave it alone. It's also not advisable to fry in the electric pressure cooker. And you also do not want to let any raw, uncooked food sit at room temperature for more than 1 hour in the electric pressure cooker, because it does allow you to set like a start time. But you don't, especially in Florida where our temperatures are frequently above 80 degrees, you really don't want to let any of the food sit in there uncooked for more than an hour because of foodborne illness. Next slide, please. All right, you also want to avoid overfilling, because what can happen is what will happen, my cousin had this happen. She overfilled the electric pressure cooker when she was making chili. Actually, it seems like Andrea and I keep on talking about chili today. And she was like, oh, I'm just gonna fill it until I can't put any more food in it. And then she ended up with chili all over her ceiling. And ultimately she learned that you really do want to listen to what your electric pressure cooker says. Now this is an older model of an electric pressure cooker base or insert. And so you can see there's 2/3 of the way full and halfway full. So when you're pressure cooking and it's foods that aren't going to expand. So she did not have anything in that. All her beans were pre-soaked. Nothing was going to really expand beyond what it already was. She probably should have stayed at that 2/3 full and to avoid the mess on her ceiling. But if you're doing things like grains or beans that aren't already expanded, like dried beans or rice, and they're going to expand, you want to make sure that you're only filling to half full so that you don't end up with a mess all over your ceiling. Next slide, please. Cleaning. So the cooker base and the heating element can be cleaned with a damp cloth. You don't want to submerge it in water because this again is where all the electronics are. So you want to just gently clean it with a damp cloth. You can clean the inside of the pressure cooker base with a damp cloth as well. But you do want to keep it more dry than wet, and don't place it in the dishwasher. I find either a wipe or a nice soapy, I say soapy, but not super soapy dish towel will work well. And you can see where the fingers are at the base. Depending on the brand you have, you might actually be able to get, if it came with a ladle, you might be able to get the ladle handle into that edge so that you can clean the edge very easily with the ladle. Like you put a cloth around the ladle handle and run it around the edge there, and it fits right in that crevice, because sometimes it's hard to get your fingers in there. and maybe I'm not explaining that. Oh, Q-tips, that's a good idea. Also, foam paintbrushes work very well as well. Next slide, please. So here we have with the foam brush. Oh, that's a better picture. Goodness, I haven't looked at this presentation this morning. So you want to make sure you don't use too much water, but you can. Mine, I use the ladle handle, and it literally fits right in there and goes right around there, and it works perfect. So next slide, please.
You mentioned a toothbrush too.
Yeah, somebody said Q-tips. So yeah.
That's a good one.
All right, the stainless steel inner pot and the steam rack are food grade and dishwasher safe. Sometimes you can get discoloration in the inside of the pot. You can use a non-abrasive stainless steel cleaner to clean that, or next slide, please. Or if you really don't like that rainbow color in there, it's just discoloration, it's nothing more. It can also happen because of minerals or salt in the food or water. Where I am, my water has actually a lot of minerals in it, and so I do have, almost all my pots have the discoloration, but you can either use that non-abrasive cleaner to clean it, or you can use white vinegar. If you use white vinegar, you want to let it sit for about 5 minutes, remove and rinse. But again, it's only a color issue. It's not it typically does not make anything taste funny or have any other effects to the food itself. Next slide, please. The lid, the whole entire lid of the Instant Pot brand is dishwasher safe. I also do, I'm not endorsing or promoting, like I said, I do have a Ninja, and that one actually I have two different lids, one that cannot be removed from the pot, but the electric pressure cooker lid is entirely dishwasher safe as well. With those, I do put them in the dishwasher. I take the sealing ring off and I put that in the top. Everything goes in the top part of the dishwasher. So I actually have like a top rack. So the ring goes in the top rack. I take the little silver blocking shield, pop that out, put that in a basket, and then I put the whole lid in the dishwasher top rack, just right side down, and wash it in the dishwasher that way. Once you're done washing everything, you want to make sure that everything's dry. And I always, when I store my electric pressure cookers, I place the lid upside down to keep it, number one, for it to dry, and number two, to prevent odors. You also do want to make sure you're checking that steam release valve and the float valve to make sure that everything's nice and clean in there. Next slide, please. So the AntiBlack Shield actually comes off really easily. You just press it and pop it up. I find that you just press it towards the outside of the lid and it pops right off. But you want to make sure you clean that after each use so that it doesn't become blocked or clogged. And you want to wash that, rinse, air dry, and then put it back on. And to put it back on, you just push it down to put it back on. Next slide, please. The sealing ring, these are made out of durable heat resistant silicone. They can be hand washed or top rack of the dishwasher. You do want them to dry completely before putting them back in the lid. You want to make sure that it's in there securely before cooking, making sure that it's even all around and not that one piece isn't sticking out a little bit more than another side. But you want to make sure that you do replace it if there's any signs of cracking or damage, like I mentioned earlier, because it is critical to make sure that you get to pressure. Next slide, please. The condensation collector. So you can see the photo over to the right that has some little friends or mold growing in there. So this is why we want to take them off on a regular basis and hand wash them and allow them to air dry. You want to collect them after each use because mold and bugs can collect and grow here. I occasionally will get a little tiny bit of growth in the bottom of mine, even though I clean mine on a very, very, very regular basis. So occasionally I'll have to throw a little bit of bleach in the bottom of it just to make sure that I can get all the mildew and anything else out of it. Next slide, please. So I do get questions about, can I use the electric pressure cooker to can? It is not recommended, and this is because electric pressure cookers are not actually designed for canning, even the ones that are sold saying that they can. Next slide, please. So the National Center for Home Food Preservation says that any of the food prepared in the electric pressure cookers may end up under pressured, under-processed, and under-processed foods are unsafe and can result in foodborne illness, including botulism poisoning if consumed. So their electric pressure cookers are great for making dinners, but leave the canning to the traditional pressure canners. Even the ones that say that they're made for pressure cooking, for pressure canning, and they're electric, I would, based on studies that I have seen, the foods are under-processed in those, even if they're sold that way. And we really don't want to, we don't want anybody to get sick or die by misusing an electric pressure cooker. Next slide, please. And I guess we're almost done. So there will be a short evaluation. Please complete that and we'll send some recipes. And I thought I saw in the chat that somebody got a recipe for cheesecake. Is that correct?
Yes, there's the Instant Pot cheesecake one. And then somebody else commented too that they found a Greek cheese yogurt to use for the cheesecakes. So that could be an option. That would be maybe a little bit healthier. And then somebody asked Sarah, you know, just they had asked, I guess, how do you replace like the, you know, the little cup, or how do you find one if, you know, you got one without one?
The condensation cup?
Yeah, the condensing cup.
So if you purchased one and it wasn't in the box, I would contact the company first. Now, I have had people who didn't realize what it was for and accidentally threw it out, but I would say contact the company that you purchased it from. So I will say that I hate using brand names, but Instant Pot has been super great. We received an Instant Pot for the office that was not working. We got an error message on the screen. The minute we actually the second time we plugged it in. The first time we plugged it in, it was fine. The second time we plugged it in, it flashed an error message. And when I got the error message, they were super good and super quick about replacing actually the whole entire electric pressure cooker. So they have really great customer service. And so I will say that they're super great. So don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, my electric pressure cooker didn't come with this, or it wasn't in the box. So that would, or I would say look online, because there are a lot of replacement parts available online if you happen to misplace it during your time of using it. That's one of the, if you don't have a pressure cooker and you're looking to purchase a pressure cooker, that's actually one of the biggest tips I will tell people, is to see what replacement parts are available online or available period, because there is going to come a period of time where you're going to need to put replacement parts into it. I had an incident where one of my lids got melted on the top of the stove. And so I had to get a replacement part for that lid. And luckily the type I have, their parts are really readily available. But when there's always somebody coming out with something new and something great, and you want to just make sure that you're able to get the pieces that you need. If you need a new silicone ring, are they easily available? So that's just one of the things that I would suggest when looking for them, is making sure that pieces that may need to be replaced are easily available.
Okay, thanks. And then Carolyn just said, you know, I had talked about she said it was Greek yogurt cream cheese, which makes more sense. So that's the option. I've seen that one. That could be a better one. Yeah, not yogurt, she says. I just wanted to say too, you know, here are some of the classes I have coming up. So, you know, just because everything is changing all the time, I've been doing most of them online, or so far all of them. And so these are the ones I have coming up online. And then I have one on Friday about just, you know, kind of prepping, meal planning, like how to conquer that and how to do it, maybe saving money too. So some fun tips. And then some other ones with herbs and spices coming up, which could be really fun. So it's going to be really fun. So we just wanted to tell you that. So then please, if you guys have any questions, you can unmute yourself if you like, or you can type it in the chat box. But if we don't see anything, then we'll wrap it up. But just really thank you all for coming, and thank you, Sarah, for doing this with us. Like, it's great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I don't see anything, so right. Thank you guys very much. I hope you have a good day and stay safe, okay?
Donna, I hope you do use yours. And if you have questions, my phone number and my email are up here. So
Yeah, everybody take her phone number.
feel free to shoot me an email. Email might be easier if you're good on the computer. If not, go ahead and I'm just in between. I'm sort of working alternative work location office. So just if you want an immediate call or answer, email's best. Barbara, I've done white rice in the pot. I've done basmati or jasmine. And I've done the white jasmine as well as brown jasmine. And I want to say, yes, it's the same time for white rice because I've used the rice setting for that one. That's the one thing I think I've used it. I don't make the white rice very often, but I do occasionally allow the kids because my younger son loves it especially. So I have used that setting. So yes, white rice setting. And if you do the jasmine brown rice in the Instant Pot, I do 12 minutes pressure, and then I'd let it natural release, and it comes out really yummy.
You ever do oatmeal or anything like that? Like a big pot of that? I've heard people do that.
No, I have friends who do it, and I know people who do it. It wouldn't get eaten in this house, unfortunately. So I have not done oatmeal. I'm trying to think. I have done like an apple cobbler or apple crisp with oatmeal in it.
Same thing.
It didn't have a lot of sugar actually. It was pretty, because I don't know. I realize that desserts aren't always healthy, but I have a giant sugar tooth in my mouth. So I believe in moderation when it comes to sweets. So I do allow myself a little bit. But the apple cobbler, apple crisp it was quick oats, I think, no, they were steel cut. I'm correcting myself now. They were steel cut and they were really good, but it wasn't a whole big pot of it, so.
Barbara said she had just done one and got a burn notice.
I've been getting the burn notice a little bit myself, and sometimes it's a liquid, sometimes it's how clean the bottom, it sounds funny, but sometimes it's a liquid, sometimes it's how clean the bottom of the pan is. And what I found is, depending on what you're doing or how you prepared the pan before you put anything in there. So maybe try adding a little bit of oil to the bottom of the pan next time and see what happens. Clean pot.
Yeah, she said she cleaned the pot, started over, added water, and it cooked through.
Yeah. I got the burn notice yesterday on mine when I was doing the shredded chicken, which I do all the time, and I've never gotten the burn notice. And I think it was just I find with tomato products it works. I get the burn notice more than anything. So I don't know. I don't know if you notice anything. Women need their calcium. That's why we need to eat more cheese, right?
You guys are killing me. All right, so we have those 4 recipes, right, Sarah, to send out?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, flan. Yeah, the 4 Mexican. I call it Mexican dinner night. So yeah, shredded chicken for chicken for chicken tacos. You shred it for chicken tacos, or however you want to eat them. But we do tacos in our household. Seasoned black beans, seasoned rice, and then the flan, which is super easy to make in the electric pressure cooker and comes out delicious.
Sounds good. All right. Well, if anybody doesn't have anything else, I'll stop that. And I really thank you guys, everything. Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much, guys. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon.